the elections. Let me tell you how bad...
That's a remarkably important point.
Yeah, let me tell you something that most Americans don't know, or people all over the world don't know. We had in Venezuela a two-party system. When Chavez ran for president, the two parties combined were crushed to 10% of the vote. In fact, they were so crushed that their candidates abandoned their campaign before the vote. And now, except for 2 states of our 20 states, the governors are pro-Chavez, the Assembly and the Senate, what they do is the opposition just doesn't run anybody. And this is, I think, advice from the CIA. If you're going to be crushed in the election, it's better not to run.
And accuse.
And then say there's a one-party dictator run. They called Chavez a dictator, and yet everybody, including President Carter from the United States, has gone to witness the election and say there's no question he wins. All the polls show he wins. The exit poll shows he wins. But, you know, and he's a very peculiar person. He's, first of all, the first non-white Venezuelan to be president. He is much closer to the people, the way he talks, everything he does. But he goes to the UN and calls Bush a devil. And what everybody misses is that the people who sit in the UN, well, most of them are, you know, diplomats taught to be very careful, not to applaud, not to laugh. They're not radicals. They're not pro-Chavez, et cetera, exactly. He got the biggest applause.
Standing ovation.
Huh?
Standing ovation.
Standing ovation, calling Bush the devil. The fact is that Chavez has certain things working for him, and one of them is the price of oil. It's gone up to now $95 a barrel. Venezuela's an oil producer. The money used to all be stolen. It would go to the United States and to Spain. All the politicians would steal it. The president's secretary, who was making $25,000 a year, bought a $5 million house in Los Angeles. This is what was happening until Chavez came to power. Now the oil money is being used to help all South Americans, to create education, jobs, and so forth. And when Chavez visits other countries, he's got a big checkbook. So they all treat him with respect. See, he's loved. The politicians and all the people who fear him say, oh, you're welcome here, because he brings the checkbook.
Is an isolated incident in Central Asia and Latin America, or is he the harbinger of a new trend in entire Latin America?
Well, I think the power of the United States is so overwhelming that it is very hard to believe that the process now going on in Venezuela to really democratize the country and make it a country of the people, where the poor will be respected equally as ever. And by the way, the standard of living of the poorest people in Venezuela is rising very rapidly. One thing the American media never mentions is that 2 years ago, Venezuela had the fastest growing economy in the world. And last year, the fastest growing economy in all of Latin America. It's always presented in America as though it's falling apart, nothing's working, it's a disaster. The poor standard of living has risen dramatically. They've built hospitals and clinics all over Venezuela, especially in the poor neighborhoods. 20,000 doctors have come in from Cuba. They work for $200 a month. Chavez asked the Venezuelan doctors to do this. They wouldn't do it. The United States wouldn't do it. And Cuba today is even teaching Americans how to become doctors so they can help the poor in the world. So there's something very profound happening in Venezuela, which the people are starting to understand. And for the poor, it's like, this is a totally new world. All of a sudden, they're respected. Their standard of living is going up. They're getting food. They're getting medical care. Their children are getting more education.
You know, Mr. Manto, you met him, Pakistani leader. Abid Manto, you met him when he was here.
Oh, yes, yes.
His party had taken out processions in favor of Chavez in Pakistan. There were huge posters for him. But let's come to the issue of election 2008. What do you think are going to be defining issues, and what should be the role of the progressive forces?
Well, the Republicans have really destroyed their credibility because the corporate world asked them to do things that were absolutely impossible, like the war in Iraq and other things. So the big business in America now wants the Democrats in, because that's the point of the two-party system. As the people begin to more and more dislike the people in power, they bring the other party, and then the media just plays it up. They're so different. This is a big difference here, and you can choose. It's your choice. I think the Democrats will sweep the elections. I think they'll control the Senate, the Congress, and the presidency. Immediately, that is 6 months honeymoon, and then it's over. Then
before you go further, is immigration going to be a major issue in this election or no?
Well, you see, immigration I know I have to be brief, so I'll try. Immigration is a major issue now in the United States, as it is in all Europe, all the advanced industrial countries. This is a process that cannot be stopped. But the truth is that we don't have a big immigration in the United States. The whole topic is a lie. Let me just give you the figures for Mexicans. For every 100 American, 1 Mexican is arriving every 6 years. And that's into an economy that's growing at 3% and a population which is approaching the zero growth. The Mexican immigration into the United States is not a problem, it's a solution. It has strengthened the American economy, it has created jobs for Americans. It is better for America to have this inflow of Mexicans than it would be to not have them. If all the undocumented workers in the United States were thrown out, the American economy would go into a very dangerous tailspin going downhill. And I want to explain to people who are not from the United States how horrendous the campaign against the immigrants is. I've been working to help a man who has been in jail for 11 years, Santo Reyes. He has been sentenced to 26 years to life. His crime, he tried to get a driver's license. He cheated trying to get a driver's license. For that, they gave him 26 years to life in prison. He's been in jail for 11 years. I have been talking to members of our state Senate and state legislature trying to get pressure on the governor to free him. I've talked to the governor's people, and it's impossible to make headway that any country in the world would ever imprison a person for life for cheating on a DMV test. DMV means for a driver's license. Cheating for a driver's license is unacceptable anywhere in the world. Even the worst dictators in the world would never do this. And yet that's happened in the United States.
I applaud you for working for Reyes' liberation and freedom. But immigration, you are saying, will be an issue on the election or not?
Yes, yes. Immigration, there's now a very dangerous, racist, rightist movement in America against immigration as there is in all Europe. In Europe, it's aimed against Africans and Arab people and against Muslims. In the United States, it's mainly aimed against Mexicans and Chinese. But this is a process. The world is becoming one place, one country. We should be going in the exact opposite direction in America. We should be making Canada, the United States, and Mexico one economy and open the borders. The border with Mexico has always been open, and what people outside the United States do not know is that the United States invaded and took half of Mexico in violation of all international law to expand human slavery. The Mexicans opposed it, said they didn't want human slavery. They would sign a peace treaty if the United States would say it would not have slavery like right now, we're inside Mexico. We're doing this interview in a part of the United States that was really part of Mexico. The United States said, no, we want human slavery. That's why we went to war with you. So today, the Mexican people are the indigenous people of this continent. Not to let them in. No one has more right to be in Mexico than the Mexicans.
Yes. Now, the last question, what should be the goal and strategy of the progressive movements in 2008?
Well, I ran with Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader is probably one of the most exceptional humans in American history. He has done more for the American people than any other individual. He has passed more laws defending the rights of the American people than any other individual, and I think in all of America's history. Protecting people, fighting for democracy. Ralph Nader is an incredible figure in American history. And yet the progressive community viciously attacked him for standing up and saying, I'm not going to vote for war. I want to vote for peace. I'm not going to vote for the exploitation of people. I'm going to vote for the rights of labor. And this is part of the way that two-party system works, how the Democrats were able to create this vicious, except for when the abolitionists first appeared as candidates, has there ever been a more vicious attack than was done against Ralph Nader. I'm hoping that in 2008, Ralph will run one more time. I mean, he's getting old and he overworks himself to death. When I ran with him as vice presidential candidate, I referred to him as the kid on the slate because he had twice the energy I had. He's an amazing person. And if he were to run one more time, think about everything he said in the 2004. He said it was wrong to go to Vietnam, to Iraq, excuse me. That tells you where my brain was formed. It is amazing what he has done, and I think it would be a great statement to the American people, and to all those people that turned against him, who now are going to start rethinking it. When you're really going to see the shift is after the Democrats control the White House.
Excellent. You heard Peter Miguel Camejo. I don't need to add anything. This is the voice of reason. This is the other America people need to see all over the world. This is the America that's compassionate, that's humane, that's true to America's ideals and principles, that does not distinguish among people based on gender, race, religion, color, creed, or country of origin. And this is the defining essence of the international civil society. One great gift of globalization is emergence of the international civil society, so clearly observable in support for the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. We thank you for today's discussion, Mr. Camejo, and we'll continue this conversation with Camejo and other friends in weeks to come. Thank you.